Hello everyone of YouTube. I am Telic Minty Pony and I am back with another part episode, should I call it episode? I guess episode of My Little Mommies by 3 Power. And last time I kinda had to end it off rather quickly because I only had a few minutes, like 10 minutes to record a video, and now I have more time, although since I have an annoying video editor that'll only let me record for as long as I have the video. I don't know exactly, but long story short, I can't record for too long or I'll lose the voice and I'll just end up talking to a dead microphone. Anyway, I'm going to go back a few lines so we know what's going on, and then I'll continue reading. Yes, this is going to be just like Daring Do in the Mummy's Mausoleum, the Rainbow-Maned Pegasus exclaimed, pumping a huff in excitement. I hope you're not expecting to run into any traps, Rainbow, Twilight said, raising an eyebrow. Spoil sport, Rainbow said as she stuck out her tongue and began to fly away. Rainbow, wait, Twilight said as she began to gather magic in her horn. There's a spell I need to cast first. Twilight's horn glowed brighter and brighter, until, with a flash of white light, 4 white orbs appeared out of thin air. One each floated over to Pinkie, Rainbow, Applejack, and Rarity, hovering over their heads. From how the mansion looked from the outside, it's safe to say most of the windows are overgrown by trees. There's not likely to be much light, so be careful. The ponies nodded. 4 of them headed to their assigned areas, while Rarity magically dusted off a couch and levitated Fluttershy's unconscious body onto it. Honestly, Fluttershy, I have more to fear from this dusty old place than you. Cutscene. Any luck? Twilight asked. The ponies had searched the mansion for the better part of an hour, and had reassembled in the entrance hall. Nothing, Applejack answered. I found plenty of bookshelves and desks, but no books. The cow pony sighed. I don't know, Twi. I think someone got here long before we did. They took the paintings, too, Rainbow Dash added. There's a whole bunch of hooks on the walls where they would have hung, but nothing's there. Rainbow paused for a moment. Not that I'm interested in paintings or anything, she added. So, the mansion's empty? Fluttershy asked. The yellow Pegasus had regained consciousness about 20 minutes prior. Twilight sighed in resignation. It looks like it, Fluttershy, she answered. Oh, that's a relief, Fluttershy said, visibly relaxing. Twilight just rolled her eyes before glancing over at the pink earth pony that had thus far remained uncharacteristically quiet. What about you, Pinkie? She asked. I don't suppose you found any books? Nope, she answered with a grin. Just a big creepy door. Twilight sighed dejectedly and began to slowly walk towards the exit. All right, then, we'd better head back before it gets too dark. I'll write a letter telling the princess it was a bust when we... Wait, what? She snapped her head back towards Pinkie, only just processing what the pink mare had said. Down that hallway, there's a big spooky door with some monster or something carved onto it, Pinkie said plainly. Show me, Twilight happily exclaimed, all disappointment vanishing from her face, lit up with excitement. Sure, it's just down this hallway. Follow me, Pinkie said as she began hopping down the same hallway she had explored before. All but one of the ponies immediately trotted after her. I don't want to see the creepy door, Fluttershy quietly called after them. Fluttershy! 5 voices yelled back at her, causing her to instinctively flinch and squeal. Okay, she whispered. Sure enough, at the end of the hallway was a thick stone door. Just like Pinkie said, the door was engraved with a depiction of some monstrous creature. Its head was a twisted version of a pony's, but with 4 eyes instead of 2. Its long, narrow body stretched across the entire door from top to bottom, with not 4, rather 8 multi-joined legs that sickly twisted and turned in every which way. Its mane and tail waved in a manner reminiscent of fire which formed a complete circle around the beast. By Celestia, Twilight gasped. It's Sleipnir! Slept where, Twilight? Applejack asked, cocking an eyebrow. Sleipnir, Twilight enunciated, slightly annoyed. I want to stop there. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. If someone can tell me if I'm pronouncing it right or wrong, and if I am pronouncing it wrong, how to pronounce it, please. 5 blank stares gazed back at her. The father of all monsters? Stare. The 8-legged terror? Stare. The spider horse? Oh! 5 voices simultaneously exclaimed in understanding. Twilight could only scowl at her friend's lack of historical knowledge. Whatever, let's just get this open, she said, stepping forward to examine the door. I don't see a handle or nothing, Twi, Applejack observed. Of course not, Rainbow added. Fancy doors like this always have a hidden switch. Try pushing one of the eyes in. Ooh, ooh, Pinkie called out as she jumped up and down. Maybe it opens if you say a password. Pinkie cleared her throat and stepped forward. Open sesame seed bagel, she shouted at the door. For a moment there was silence, and then, with the sound of stone scraping against stone, the door slowly slid sideways into the wall, coming to rest with a thud. The pony's jaws dropped, including Pinkie's. Rarity was the first to regain the ability to speak. Did Pinkie really just? No, Twilight said as she looked back and smiled. It was me. Although this door does apparently open with an audible trigger, Twilight explained, the chances of correctly guessing the correct passphrase are astronomical. Luckily, the lock is based on an old double redundancy algorithm that was determined to be flawed centuries ago. By exploiting this flaw, I was able to bypass the primary magical circuitry and stare. She rolled her eyes and sighed yet again. Never mind. In any case, I think it's unlikely that any looters could have made it through that door without force, and since there's no sign of damage, I think we may be in luck. Let's go, girls. Right! Came a chorus of voices behind her, along with one terrified squeak. The passageway was dark, darker than the mansion itself had been, likely due to the complete lack of windows. There were unlit torches hanging on the wall, but with the lights still floating above the ponies' heads, they were unnecessary. The passageway gently sloped downwards into the earth until it emptied out into a circular room. A tiny beam of light slipped into the room from the ceiling. Sorry, I completely messed up this name. Rainbow flew up to the beam to take a closer look. After examining the ceiling for a moment, she said, There's a glass skylight here, but it's almost completely covered by leaves and junk. It looks like this room is under some patch of ground outside the mansion. Fascinating, Twilight said as she and the others walked forward to the center of the room. The setup certainly suggests that it was a room of some importance, a shrine perhaps. Well, first things first. I think we need to get a bit more light before we can see any of this. Sorry, make sense of any of this, Applejack observed. At the moment, the lights only illuminated a few feet around them, just enough to make the ponies themselves visible to one another, but not enough to light up the room itself. Right, Twilight said, gathering her magic. I'll make the lights brighter. The glowing orbs swelled with energy, and in just a few moments the room was awash in their bright glow. At the time, several events happened in quick succession. First, the 6 ponies immediately became aware of the fact that the floor they were standing on was actually a large circular mirror situated in the center of the room beneath the skylight. Second, while the mirror was reflecting the magical lights Twilight had conjured, as one would expect any mirror to do, it also began to rapidly give off light of its own at an alarmingly quick rate. And finally, the light itself engulfed the 6 ponies, flowing through their bodies in a manner not unlike when they used the elements of harmony. For a moment, it seemed as though their bodies had become disconnected from the world, and instead touched the entirety of the universe in all its glory. And then the light went out, and the 6 ponies fell to the ground, unconscious. Cutscene. Pinkie Pie loved to dream. As wacky as reality was, there was no limit to what you could do in a dream. Pinkie had all kinds of dreams. Silly dreams, action-packed adventure dreams, even the occasional naughty dream. You know, the kind where she would eat 40 cakes and not share them with any pony. She loved dreaming so much that she even once tried to dream within a dream, but decided that was a bit too silly. However, as much as she loved dreaming, there is one thing that could always snap her out of any random fun or goodness dream: her responsibility. Not too long ago, Pinkie had discovered that even though she was friends with every pony in Ponyville, a lot of them thought she wasn't very responsible. In fact, the first time Mr. and Mrs. Cake needed a foal sitter, Pinkie was the very last pony they asked. That hurt. And even after she had convinced the two to leave Pumpkin and Pound Cake under her care, Twilight had come by and said she thought Pinkie just wasn't cut out for the responsibility. That hurt too. Pinkie was determined to show them all that she deserved the name Pinkie Responsibility Pie, even if she had made the middle part up, and in the end, she was made the Cake's go-to foal sitter. As a result, Pinkie found herself looking after the twins more and more, even on a number of occasions where the Cakes were out of town for several days at a time. Those nights, Pinkie was the only adult pony in the house with 2 baby ponies, so it didn't matter how many tins of cakes Bear and Pinkie Von Pie had stolen from Princess Celestia's personal vault. If Pound and Pumpkin Cake were crying, it was her responsibility. No, her duty to wake up. The pink pony mumbled into the floor as her eyelids fluttered open to the sound of the foals crying. Coming, she mumbled again as she got to her hooves and let out a huge yawn. Not many ponies knew this, but Pinkie was actually quite slow in the mornings, before she got a chance to drink her first dozen cups of coffee. It was a secret she guarded well. Whenever she went to a slumber party or had to camp out for cider season, she always made sure to bring a big thermos full of triple-shot espresso with her for her to drink down the moment she woke up. Of course, if she filled up on caffeine every time she was awoken in the middle of the night due to the foals crying, she'd never go back to sleep. So, despite her lack of energy, Pinkie brushed her long, naturally straight hair out of her face and slowly walked over to where the cries were coming from, squinting her eyes to see in the dark. Where'd the cakes go again? She thought, her mind still foggy. Oh, it must have been that trip to Las Pegasus they were planning. Yeah, that must have been it. Pinkie reached into her bag and pulled out 2 bottles of baby formula that she had started keeping in her saddlebags at all times, you know, for bottle emergencies, and she gave them to the hungry little ponies in front of her. They immediately began gulping it down, but Pinkie was surprised to find that the crying hadn't ceased. She began to feel around in the dark. 1, 2, 3 babies? For a moment, Pinkie just stood there, attempting to make sense of this inconsistency. The cakes must have been busy, she concluded, still drowsy, and reached into her bag for another bottle and passed it to the third foal, who also began suckling on it happily. And with that, the cacophony of noise had ceased, and Pinkie took a moment to appreciate the newfound silence, save for the suckling noises of the 3 foals next to her. However, after a moment, Pinkie began to take a closer look around the room. Are we in the basement? She asked aloud. Why are we in the basement? Her eyes widened. Uh-oh, I didn't accidentally drink Mr. Cake's special adult cola again, did I? Somewhat panicked, Pinkie turned back to the foals. Anyway, I've got to get them back to their crib, she said as she scooped them up, balancing the tail on her back with practiced ease and placing the third atop her head. She then began to carefully walk to the doorway with 3 foals in tow, who were still happily drinking down the formula even as they were given a horsey ride. This was not responsible, Pinkie, she scolded herself in a whisper. Your job was to take care of these little ponies, not let them sleep on the cold floor. She climbed up the ramp. Did Sugar Cube Corner's basement always have a ramp? She thought, and once she got to the top, began feeling around for a light switch. She couldn't find it. What the hey is going on? She asked aloud, looking around. She saw a large patch of moonlight filtering in through one of the windows. She walked over to it and carefully deposited the foals onto the carpeted floor. Okay, you 3 stay there for 2 seconds while I find a light switch. At that moment, Pinkie Pie looked down and clearly saw for the first time the 3 baby ponies she had never seen before in her life, all of them chugging away at their bottles. It was then that Pinkie discovered she didn't need a canteen of espresso to wake herself up in the morning. It turned out pure terror was a perfectly acceptable substitute. As her hair sprung back up into its wildly curly form, Pinkie began spluttering in confusion. Babies! What? Whose? She then gasped as the memories of that afternoon came flooding back to her. Girl! Oops, I accidentally ran too long. Subscribe for more on My Name's Metallic Minty Pony. Bye.